Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook with Brad Kooima with Kooima Kooima Varilek, and we're seeing mixed to lower trade over in the livestock futures. We're mixed in the grains as well, with soybeans to the plus side, feed grains lower. All right, Brad, let's talk about the cattle market. We had lower weekly closes last week in the futures. We had lower cash trade. You know, what pushed it? Was it disappointment about cash or what?
Well, thanks for having me on, Michelle. I suppose one could argue, the chicken and the egg thing, which I guess I'd probably go with here. In other words, it seemed to me like the futures market was the tail wagging the dog. I thought we would have had a chance maybe for the cash to be closer to steady had we not had that tough week that we did last week. And of course, remember last week you had the anthrax story. And you also had a pretty tough week on the stock market, particularly a couple of days there that were pretty brutal. So you had some, outside influences here that certainly hurt the futures. And I thought without that, we maybe would have steadied up the cash just a little bit. I was a little encouraged by the end of the week, though, that cash was starting to give some signs of maybe stabilizing just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't want to give that anthrax story too much credit, and I guess I didn't last week either, because you and I have had manure on our boots and know that shouldn't have been a story. Why was it?
Well, I decided to give it a title, and the title I'm giving it is Headline Algorithms. I'm not alone in thinking that there are algorithms, in other words, computer programs that are programmed to react to certain things, and I think that there are algorithms that are programmed to react to certain headlines, certain phrases, and dead cattle, etc. To me, it was too much coincidental. The Forbes story came out at 10 o'clock. The futures broke at 10 o'clock. Now, is anthrax an issue to the cattle futures market? I don't think it is at all in any shape or form. Anthrax has been around forever. Particularly shows up when it's dry. It's in the ground. It's very containable. It should not be a factor. Okay, but if an algorithm thinks it's bearish, these aren't people. This isn't 2015 when you had a pit where people sorted through the news and said, well, that's no big deal. We shouldn't be reacting to that. But when an algorithm comes in and sells hundreds of futures, bang, 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 it does influence the market. That's my opinion. People might argue with me. I don't think anthrax should be bearish, but when the flow of the market does that, at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Right. If the stock market can stabilize this week, do you think the futures can also stabilize, or do we have to have that cash market turn higher to do that, or at least be steady?
That's a great question, and I think maybe I would take the path that if we aren't riddled with this other news, in other words, like anthrax or the stock market, if we stabilize the stock market, to your question, which today so far so good, having a nice update, but yeah, there's a debate tomorrow. I suppose the market might respond to that. We don't have any of that, the big unemployment or the jobs reports this week like we did last week. I would think that the cash market, to me, is showing some signs that it wants to firm up a little bit anyway. I actually got more money Friday for cattle that I sold than the cattle that I'd sold on Thursday. Not like we were hitting home runs. It was 181 on Thursday and 182 on Friday, but at least a little bit better. And in spite of where the futures had done, I was a little encouraged by that. So I'm going to go with the idea that barring something, we've got a little more stable market here, that we get our legs back underneath the futures and the cash this week.
Yeah. Do you think the Packers are pretty short here?
A couple of them really are. Indicated by some of the bids that they were well into the evening, getting bothered at a wedding, frankly, on Friday night for cattle that wanted to get picked up and then hauled a long ways to boot. So, I think maybe a couple of the Packers have overplayed their hand down into this break, and hopefully they, step in and frankly, I think these guys buying cattle at 180, Packers are making nice money again. For when we had the thing a little bit tightened and everybody's, oh gosh, the poor Packers not making any money. Now what? Well, now the Packers making money. Now you saw those extra Saturdays last Saturday making up for the Monday holiday. There's one thing that's still consistent, I believe, and that's fear and greed. And greed, if somebody has a chance to make some money, I got a feeling they're going to try to do it. Otherwise, their competitor will.
How much chart damage did we do, though, last week, Brad?
a bunch. It makes me very scared that you could technically have another leg down. Now we haven't taken out the lows in Octor D's yet, where the open interest is, but we're vulnerable here. The chart pattern is not great. Back end, the feeders look really lousy. We need to do something here. Hold these lows would help a lot, on October and December. But because we're vulnerable here. Where if we've had two big legs down, could you have another leg down? Wouldn't be the first time in September that we were pretty sloppy. Sometimes the market doesn't bottom till mid-October. But I'm hoping we don't have to do that. And if the cash would stabilize, maybe we wouldn't. But this is no layup here. Market goes down much too easily for most of our liking.
Yeah, and we have funds, unfortunately, not helping us like they were earlier. So that's not helpful either.
Like always, we seem to talk about, where did the long speculator and where did the natural long go here? Where did the Costco's and the Packers and, you'd say if you could buy December cattle at $5 to $7 under what the market was now, typically that would seem like the right thing to do, right? December cattle are almost always higher than the summer lows, but
sure,
we shall see.
Hogs also had a lower week last week. I think today would make 4 down days. Is the party over there, the funds done pushing that thing or not? Because boy, they really added on to their long position in a real hurry in that market.
Boy, they sure did. Party's over. That maybe is an apt way of looking at it. I was going to say something like maybe the easy part of this rally is over.
Okay.
We've been just brutalized here. The hog market has been forever, it feels like, and still not at a big value. I mean, come on, $90 summer hogs, even bad years, we often get summer hogs to 100. But for now, I think until we get a little more backstop on whether or not we're going to continue to have what at least globally is pretty good demand and domestically not so much. And so then you get into this more macro thinking of, during a recession, usually pork benefits from that. Are we in a recession? Doesn't seem like it to most. I don't know. This is above my pay grade, but it seems to me like we got plenty of hogs out there and you have to have just absolutely perfect demand or you struggle. And after this big of a rally, I'd be more inclined to think maybe we pause here a little bit and maybe struggle a little bit.
Okay. And in the grains, soybeans back up, but we failed to get through resistance areas, even though China business is kind of pushing this in South American weather?
I think those are the two big things. We've got a story there on weather. And, I kind of say tongue in cheek because as I've said to you before, the many times you and I have talked together, I have a hard time telling whether it rains in Iowa and I live in Iowa, let alone whether the conditions in central Brazil are ideal or not. Obviously from reading through the news and stuff, there's a growing area there and that is very, very dry. They're in between seasons though, guys. Okay. So, I mean, it's not like their beans are
the dry season.
Right. So, but no forecast for 30 or rain for forecast for 30 days. That's kind of sounds like one of those forecasts that could change. But so there's a story there. But I think the other story that I have a little more confidence in is this consistent buying here by China now going on 5 weeks, maybe now. Whether that's a political motivated decision, I don't care. I'm just glad to see they're finally owning up to what they said they were going to do, and that it looks like we're the country of choice here in terms of what has value. So, I guess there's even a few people here that U.S. wise that think maybe this crop is shrinking just a little bit. So. I'm glad to see that we caught today. Friday was not a good day. Outside day reversal down. So we need to be up here today to stem that momentum. A little bit of a funny time of year to rally. We typically wouldn't put a seasonal low in just yet here on the beans, but I guess I'm rooting for the guys in the field. Hopefully we can get a little more value for them. Let's see if we can't get a little more up out of here.
And we had a reversal in corn as well. Is that why we're not up today, or is that the market concerned about the report coming up this week?
We've got a big enough corn crop that everybody's worried about it, I think. Let's figure out just how big this crop is, and then maybe we can see what the demand does to help us out. I continue to contend that demand for this price of corn is going to be a lot better than what it was a year ago at this time. Start with the ethanol story. So I don't know. I think the language and the swagger here, guys are starting to chop silage and stuff like that in my neck of the woods. And it's kind of like they don't really want to talk about it. there's a big crop out here, at least in this part of the Corn Belt. And I think that's going to hold the market back until we know exactly. Let's put a number on it and let's deal with it and let's get on down the road. I think it's a little early to really get confident on the corn. I'm not. Let's look for it to base out here at some point, I hope. But we got to figure out what to do with a big crop.
No doubt. All right. Thanks for joining us. Brad Kooima with Kooima Kooima Varilek. That is Markets Now.